Welcome back to Manga Story, and today we're going to be covering Berserk Chapter 316! In our last video we watched as the return of Captain Bonebird and his tentacle crew attacked Guts and his friend. With Shirkei off trying to find the source of the ominous odes surrounding the island, Guts is forced to wear the Berserker armor without her tether to the real world. Now joined with Izma, the supposed Marrow outcast, Shirkei and Ishidori rush back when Shirkei sees a vision of monsters attacking Guts. As the fire begins to spread across the city from the monster attack, Izma watches in amazement, stating that it's just like Ishidori said, the monsters are real. But what about the villagers? Are they all right? And Ishidori says that he thought that she didn't really care much for them. Izma tells him, well, that's partially true, but it's not like she wants them to drop dead or anything. And just then, Izma sees two villagers below and calls out to them. As the villagers look up, they state that it's the outcast, and Izma shouts, yeah, it's the girl that you all used to make fun of. But are you okay down there? Shirkei yells to Izma not to get any closer, and just as Izma stops, the villagers begin to change into the tentacle monsters. The villagers then begin to creep towards Izma, telling her that they're going to make her just like them. She screams as the monsters get close, and as Ishidori jumps through with his dagger and sword, cutting away the monsters. Shirkei takes a lock of her hair and blows the strands at the monsters, causing them to burst into flames, allowing Ishidori and Izma to escape. As the three regroup, Shirkei scans the area and says that aside from their companions, she cannot feel a single human presence in the entire village. Ishidori says, wait, if all of the people turned into these monsters, why didn't you change? Was it because of how far you've lived away from everyone? And Shirkei tells him that it had to be because the amulet was left on her front door. Even though she can't tell exactly what it was, there was a power radiating from her home. Izma begins to tear up, stating that sure, she didn't like them, but this? What is she supposed to do with the villagers now? She's really alone. After a few moments of silence, Ishidori takes his short sword and throws it over his shoulder, telling Izma, stay here. I'm gonna see about saving your people. Izma yells that she's going too, but Ishidori says that it's too dangerous for her to go. Besides, he doesn't want her to see the people that she used to know get slaughtered. Shirkei tells Ishidori that he better not go either. Right now, Guts is transformed into the Berserker, and he's fighting those monsters alone. The only reason Guts was in control back at the Holy City is because she latched onto his back in her astral form. Right now, she's going to try and make sure to bring Guts' consciousness back, so the both of them are going to have to stay here. Ishidori scoffs, telling her, fine! And Izma asks what she's planning on doing. As Shirkei holds up her staff, she sends her astral form to the fight, and she begins to try and connect with Guts. As she does, her astral body is repelled and launched back into her physical one. She stumbles back into Ishidori, stating that the armor's power has grown. The ode surrounding it is too strong. She can't reach Guts. Back down to the battlefield, Guts takes one of the sea slug's eyes and he begins to bite and rip it apart. Magnifico shouts that he's even more horrible than the last time. As he continues to tear through another group of slugs, Bonebeard shouts, Yarr! What in the blazes is he doing? Guts plunges his sword down into another slug and he begins to growl. And at that exact moment, Casca begins to notice something. She turns and runs away from the group, and Farnese quickly begins to chase after her. As Guts looks around, he sees the two shadows of Casca and Farnese moving around and begins to focus on them. One of the tentacle monsters reaches out to grab Casca, but instinctively, Farnese grabs her silver dagger, cutting into the monster. Farnese calls out to Casca to wait, but as she takes a closer look, she sees Casca running towards a small child. As Casca grabs the child, a slug monster bursts out of the ground, and it begins to move towards Casca. But before it can even reach them, Guts jumps onto the slug's back, whipping his sword back and forth, cutting the body of the slug in half. He stops as he looks at Casca, and Farnese asks if he just protected Casca. Is Guts in control? But as Farnese begins to call out to him, Shirkei telepathically yells for her to stay back. Shirkei, Ishidori, and Izma begin to make their way towards the group, and Izma looks around stating, wow, that guy just tore the monster apart in the blink of an eye. Serpico jumps over everyone, placing himself between Guts and the rest of them, and Shirkei tells everyone to not get any closer. He's yet to come to his senses. As Guts looks back, he sees everyone as black shadows, the same as he sees the monsters. The voice of the Beast of Darkness begins to chew on the back of Guts' mind, telling him that they are his enemy. Just give in, surrender. But then someone else inside of Guts tells him, look, focus your gaze. And when he looks over, he begins to see the light, and he can clearly make out Casca. But with her, there's someone else, someone made out of light, reaching to Guts. The small being touches Guts' armor, and soon the armor begins to crack and the voice returns. It tells him that he knows that this one is not to be lost, and then he looks back and the voice tells him, neither are they. He begins to howl as the armor tries to bury itself into Guts' flesh, and then he falls to the ground. Everyone asks what's going on, and Shirkei tells them that Guts is trying to fight off the ode of the armor. Now is her chance. Shirkei begins to run into her physical form and jumps onto Guts' back, clinging around his neck. She locks herself in place as she begins to whisper something into his ear, and soon his eyes begin to look through the helmet. She grabs it and begins to pull it back, ripping it open to free Guts' head, allowing him to break free of the Berserker armor, and as he falls, he throws Shirkei off and everyone shouts that was way too dangerous. He begins to cough as he gets up, telling her, "Don't do something so reckless again." She grabs her hat and tells him that it was a reasonable request had it come from anyone but him. He looks over and smiles, stating that she did save him. He owes her that much. She fixes her hat and says no, she's the only one here versed in magic. It was up to her to bring him back. Izma begins to climb over everyone, yelling that she isn't sure what she just saw, but that was cool. But as everyone looks back, they don't see Bonebeard in his ship, and Roderick says that his technique for fleeing truly isn't human. Once everyone relaxes, seeing that the danger has passed, they all look over at Casca to see what she's holding. And that's when an eye looks back at them. Casca kneels down and everyone begins to realize that the child that she is holding is the little boy that they saw on the beach before they went to the Holy City. Ishidori runs up asking how did he get here? What is he even doing here? And Roderick asks if it's an acquaintance of theirs. Farnese tells him yes, he is from their travels from before they reached the Holy City. And Shirkei stares at the boy and thinks, could this be a coincidence? They met him beneath a full moon like last time. Even with magical powers peaking on full moon, she still couldn't detect his presence until now. Guts looks at the boy, and as he thinks back to the hand reaching out to him, he says that it was him. It was the boy. Izma quickly covers the boy up in robes, stating that she's never even seen him on the island before. Oh, and her name is Izma and she lives on the island. But she just realized that she is the island's last remaining person, and it's nice to meet them. While Izma cries and somehow remains happy, Ishidori asks Roderick if it's possible that Izma comes with them now. He says that he certainly wouldn't mind adding one more guest since they already have so many. She asks, so she can leave the island? Whoa! I've always wanted to ride a huge ship like yours. It'll be an adventure. Roderick then tells everyone that settles it. They'll pack up and get off of this cursed island. And Guts stops him, stating that they have unfinished business here. Since they can't leave until sunrise, they'll stay here and finish what they started. Magnifico asks how does he plan on doing that? They don't even know where the enemy nest is, and Izma starts shouting, over here, it's in that cave! Shirkei tells everyone that she may have an idea along the lines of what Guts was thinking, but she'll need them all to return to the ship to prepare some magic. Once everyone gets aboard the Seahorse, Shirkei sits down with Farnese and tells her that she's going to be the one to cast the shield that will protect the ship. Farnese asks the formation of the 4 cardinal points? That's too much too soon for her. She could never. Shirkei stops her, telling her to please calm down. You just have to look deep into your heart and see that you are in fact a witch. The cardinal points formation is a powerful spell, but it's the most fundamental spell for a witch, and it must be suitable for your first spell. You've learned how to form your astral projection, so this is going to be no problem for you. Plus, I'm going to help you through the ritual. Farnese slowly begins to panic, and then she glances up at Guts' accepting look and says that she understands. Soon, Shirkei and Farnese begin to match their breaths, and as they close their eyes, they begin to project their astral forms and float above the ship. As they get into position, Shirkei tells Farnese to go ahead and recite the incantation that she taught her. Farnese begins to call upon the power of the 4 cardinal spirits to protect them, and as she does, the spirits begin to form around her. Just as she finishes, the bright light begins to shine around the ship at the spirits that take their places, and everyone watches in awe at what they are witnessing. Back on the ship deck, Shirkei and Farnese open up their eyes, and Shirkei says that it's excellent work, and Farnese asks if they succeeded, and Shirkei tells her, take a look for yourself. Farnese begins to look around at the barrier and asks if she really did that. And Serpico tells Farnese congratulations, while Shirkei says that with this, the name Farnese now joins the ranks of the witches. She says, don't say anything, and then she looks at Guts, and he tells her that he's counting on her to keep watch. She's gonna be their shield. Farnese starts to wipe up the tears from her eyes, stating that she will do her best for them, and Guts grabs onto his sword, stating that it's probably time for them to head up to the front line now. Shirkei hesitates for a moment, and Guts tells her that he's expecting her to make herself useful, since she's his lucky charm in all of this, and if Ilaria yells, that's right! Shirkei turns her head back and says that she's aware of this. As long as she is possessing him, she won't allow him to do any rampaging. Have no fear. Guts then kneels down for Shirkei to climb up, and she thinks to herself that even though she can preserve Guts' will, she can't do anything for his physical burden. At that moment, Guts starts to call upon his armor, and the helmet swallows his head. Shirkei then releases her physical body. Serpico catches her as she falls, but as the Berserker armor fully covers Guts, Shirkei holds on in her astral form. She reaches out as the Beast of Darkness tries to take over, and then Shirkei reaches out again, pulling away at the mask that covers Guts' face. Guts fights for control, but with Shirkei's help, he's able to see things clearly, and everyone asks if she did it. Does Guts recognize them? Guts looks back, stating, you can all relax under control. Once he gets ready, he begins to jump and skip on the stones back towards the island. Izma shouts that he's jumping like a flying fish, or all nights like this, and as the little boy watches, he begins to hear something Izma herself hears. She looks over at the sea and listens, and then she begins to hear it again, a voice. And over at the foot of the cave, Shirke says that this is it. As Guts tells her, yeah, it's not going to be anything like those slugs. This time, we're gonna be fighting the sea god. As he begins to make his way inside, he says having good night vision is useful, but this oppressive atmosphere reminds me of when we went into that damn Quilfloth place. Shirke tells him that if it's anything like Quilfoth, they could draw on the strength of the spirits of darkness that dwell here. However, this is the domain of the sea god. Suddenly, Guts stops running when he sees a broken stone statue, and Shirke says that it might very well have been the seal. Guts smiles, stating that at any rate, if they cross here, they're going to be entering the first circle of hell. He steps through the broken statue and he senses something, and he says that they are coming. Slowly, the cave begins to fill up with the slug monsters, all slowly slithering towards him. And just then the water shifts, and the ship begins to surface, and Bonebeard yells, "Come on in! Welcome to my humble abode!" Guts sighs, stating that it's him again, and Shirke says that she fears that she is tired of that bony captain. Bonebeard then yells, "Behold, our forces here be endless. That superhuman strength won't be of any use." As he says that, something else starts to come up out of the water, but this time it's something that covers the entire cavern. Guts and Shirke look up at the giant maw of the sea god and all of its tendrils crawling all over. The sea god begins to growl, and Bonebeard says that the sea god be quite angry with ye. The sea god opens his mouth further and it roars, and its howl alone pushes Shirke off of Guts' back. She tightens her grip, stating that the spiritual pressure is immense. How are they supposed to fight such an enormous being? Bonebeard begins to laugh, telling them, "Come on, boys, sink your teeth into their gainer." Shirke yells that there's no way that they can fight all of these creatures head on. They need to retreat back to the narrow passage and fight them one-on-one. And Guts smiles, stating, "That would leave me no room to move. Like you said, we can't fight all of them." Guts continues telling her, "I'm not suggesting doing anything stupid like wearing myself out dealing with this lot." He holds up his sword, pointing at the sea god, stating, "Our enemy is the only thing over there, so we're gonna plunge into its mouth." She says, "Wait, we're going into the sea god's mouth?" As he begins to get a running start, he jumps on the slug monsters up to Bonebeard's ship, and after stepping on Bonebeard's face, he catapults himself into the air and straight down the sea god's mouth. And that concludes Berserk Chapter 316 to 319. Thank you for following, and if you want to keep up to date on this, then make sure you subscribe.